Hi, and welcome once again. Disability Law Show. John Scholes, Sivan Tumarkin. We're beside each other, but not really. Social distancing. It's all that physical distancing going on until further notice, as you should be too, and I know you are as we sit and watch the show here today. Lots on the show coming up, by the way. I think three things you should know if you are unable to work because of COVID-19, and I'll throw this out off the top. COVIDrights.ca is a fairly recent website. Sivan, put up by you and Lior. You crafted this together, and it's got a wealth of information on there. You can go there. Always make the phone call, 1-855-821-5900. And there's lots of things going on today, so let's get right to it. What do you say? How are you, pal?
I'm great, John. Again, it's been a very, very busy week.
Oh, yeah.
The COVID-19 is here to stay for the time being, unfortunately, but people are managing. It's very, very tough, but they're managing, but they're firing a whole slew of questions to myself, to my team, to the entire firm, really, John. And again, we specialize, we focus on employment issues and disability issues, and that's what I do. That's what James does on my team. Tamar, Albert, Michael, is a whole bunch of people on my team that continue to work nonstop all over Ontario, all over BC to help individuals who are having issues with their long-term disability insurance companies. And John, let me start off by talking to you about an email exchange I had this past week. I've had many, but one in particular that I think is endemic of what you're going to be seeing going forward. This gentleman has a permanent injury. He's unable to work. And he's been told by his neurosurgeon that it is a permanent injury, and his restrictions and impairments are permanent. In other words, he's not going back to work because of what he has. Now, his insurance company that's been paying him long-term disability has asked him, the way that insurance companies generally do, for regular updates from the doctor. Even though his impairments and injuries are permanent, they want continuous updates. Fine, they're entitled to that. The thing is, and what concerned him, and the reason he contacted me, is because there was a line in there, in that letter that he got, that said that if you do not provide that update by a certain date, then your payments may be stopped. And of course, you can just imagine what kind of panic he was in when he got that. It doesn't matter that it was a generic letter, most likely, the type of language that I see in many emails, many letters that individuals on LTD get. Again, that's very concerning because he has limited access to his doctors now because of this pandemic. And so I told him, I said, make sure to email your adjuster, explain the situation. I mean, they're aware of this. Insurance companies are fully operational. In fact, all the adjusters I am dealing with, all the insurance companies I'm dealing with, they're all working remotely. They're still in business, they understand what's going on, but they still want updates. And so I told him, just explain to them, email the adjuster saying, you're doing your best to get this update from your doctor, but because of the pandemic, there may be some delays. You may not be able to get it on time. And he did that, and the insurance company, of course, came back and said, we understand, that's okay. And, I basically told him, I said, they cannot cut you off disability. They cannot cut your payments off because you are unable to get an update from your doctor currently. I mean, that's simply nonsensical. It would make no sense. Mm-hmm. That said, I can see insurance companies still doing that. I can see individuals getting into a panic mode the way this individual rightly did as well. And this is what I would tell people. If you have questions about your long-term disability claim, especially now, especially when the adjuster is telling you to do something or asking you for stuff that you simply can't do, getting treatments, getting updates, whatever the situation is, give me a call, email me. Again, we are here to help you, to educate you. It'll cost nothing for you to speak with us to get this advice.
You know how to reach out to 1-855-821-5900. Disabilityrights.ca is the website. That's where you go as well to find a resource for one of our long-running radio shows. We like to play some of the calls back that we get the radio show each week and talk about them here. Call number 1 for the day is right now.
I was on long-term disability due to major depression and anxiety. January of this year, they told me that the definition of claim was changing, and so they were going to reassess my claim. I provided everything to them in December, and then they called me and said, we've reached a decision, we've denied your claim, I'm not eligible to even apply for EI, and I can't return to work. They have told me, well, you should see your doctor. My doctor cannot provide any documentation that they require unless I see him.
What do you think?
Very, very tough situation for this lady, but I'll tell you, John, this is classic. So let's break this down. The insurance company here has been paying this lady long-term disability for about 2 years. And again, let's go back to basics. To get long-term disability, generally speaking, you have to demonstrate with the help of whoever's treating you, your family doctor, your psychologist, whoever's treating you, that you are disabled from working in your own occupation. It's called the own occupation test. That's for the first 2 years of being eligible for long-term disability. To get beyond that 2-year mark and to have the insurance company continue to pay you long-term disability, you now have to satisfy a different test. And that test is that you cannot do any occupation for which you're suited for by training, education, or experience. This is important. It's a more difficult test to meet because no longer is it just your own occupation, it's any occupation. And that's what happened with this lady here. The insurance company concluded, I don't know on what basis, concluded that she's able to do some kind of another occupation. Now, I get this a lot, John, and the reality is that many individuals out there who are unable to do their own occupation also cannot do any occupation for which they're suited for. You know, that last part is really important, that you're suited for, right? If you have a doctor, for example, that is injured and can't do whatever that doctor is doing, let's say it's a surgeon that can't perform surgery because the doctor hurt his or her hand, within the first 2 years, the test is, can that doctor do surgery? But beyond the 2 years, the question is, can that doctor do something else for which he or she is suited for? Let's say teach a medical class, as an example, medical students. The answer is yes. So therefore, he would not qualify, she would not qualify for LTD beyond that date. So again, it's very important to understand that in many instances, when the insurance company cuts you off at that 2-year mark or before the 2-year mark, in many cases, that is wrong. The insurance company should not be doing that. And in many cases, they have no basis for doing that. So in that situation, you should absolutely be reaching out to us so we can tell you what your options are. Now, what is the option for this lady? What happens when you are told you're going to be cut off? First of all, when the insurance company cuts you off after they've been paying you LTD, generally, in most cases, they don't tell you, by the way, last week was your last payment. They will tell you that in a few weeks or a few months will be your last payment. So you have some time. Don't wait until that deadline. Don't wait until that, you're over the cliff to contact us. Immediately when you are told, when you're given a date of when your LTD will be cut off, that's when you should reach out to us. That's when we can tell you what you can do. At that point, we'll have a phone call. It won't take long, a few minutes really at most. We'll review the denial letter. We'll ask to see some of the medical documents you've submitted. We'll ask you about your condition, your situation, and then we'll tell you what your options are. And really, there are 3 options, John. First option, do nothing and let the insurance company just cut you off and not pay you what you're owed. Terrible, terrible option. Second option, which is also terrible, is for you to appeal that denial. I say terrible because most of these appeals go absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. And I see people all the time contacting me after they've been denied an appeal and a second appeal and a third appeal. Meanwhile, the clock runs, the months pass by, even years, and people are left without money. The third option, which is what I tell people when I tell them the insurance company is wrong, is to start a legal claim. Why? Because when we start a legal claim, we initiate a process that puts the screws to the insurance company. You see, when we start a legal claim, the insurance company now has to hire a defense lawyer. That costs them money. And because they have to hire a defense lawyer and they have to shell out money now, they want to try and resolve the case. And that's why in many, many cases, in fact, in almost every case that my firm has handled on the disability front, the insurance company at some point, usually sooner rather than later, has come to the table to offer money that initially they said our clients did not deserve or were not supposed to get under the policy. They've come to the table to negotiate and to try and resolve the case. And John, I'll just mention something else. In the last few weeks, we've actually noticed something interesting. During this COVID crisis, we've seen situations where the insurance company has denied repeatedly these LTD claims, and when we got hired and contacted the insurance companies, almost immediately the insurance company reversed course and suddenly said, we made a mistake, we're going to put the individual back on claim, and we're going to pay that person retroactively what they're owed. That's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy, but it's happening. That just shows you and it tells you that what I'm saying is correct, which is you have to get us involved if you get cut off or denied LTD. Because if you don't, you are playing within their sandbox. They control all the rules. You have no leverage over them.
We'll take a short break here, pal, and coming up here, 3 things you should do if you are unable to work because of COVID-19. In the meantime, write it down, 1-855-821-5900, disabilityrights.ca, and for the next little while anyway, covidrights.ca, some good information there as well. It's a Disability Law Show, lots more on the way, stick around.
You lost your job. They only gave you 2 weeks of severance per year worked. But where can you find out what you're really owed?
I'm going to severancepaycalculator.com.
Find out how much you're owed right now. severancepaycalculator.com.
You've been denied long-term disability. You think you're powerless, but you have a lot more power than you think. I'll tell you a secret. It's a numbers game for the insurance company. They're betting on you walking away from money that they owe you. Don't make that mistake. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You lost your job. They said they had a good reason, but you think you've been wrongfully dismissed. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
And welcome back. Disability Law Show. Sivan Tumarkin, John Scholes in separate studios, but still doing the show. COVIDrights.ca is a good website now that you can check out for lots of information in that regard. You want to reach out by phone, 1-855-821-5900 and help at disabilityrights.ca as well. Wanted to get into this, Sivan. That is 3 things you should do if you are unable to work because of COVID-19. First one is this. If you are suffering from depression, anxiety, phobias, or other psychological illness because of the pandemic, ask your doctor for a letter explaining the nature of your disability and apply for short-term or long-term LTD.
That's right, John. You know, I call disability insurance, the hidden safety net. And I say it's hidden because most people are not aware that they even have coverage for short-term or long-term disability. Most people, even when they're temporarily laid off, think, my only option is EI. Well, yes, if you're not disabled from working, that's your option and whatever else the government provides. But here's the thing. When you're temporarily laid off, your benefits should continue, and many people have long-term disability and short-term disability coverage through work. Now, some people actually purchase it also privately, so they know they have it, but if you are suffering from the psychological effects of COVID-19, of this pandemic, and John, I can tell you, I've spoken with a lot of people, the stress is through the roof, understandably. Everyone is on edge. You're going to start seeing more depression, more anxiety. You're going to see more PTSD, phobias, all that kind of stuff. It's going to disable people from working. Well, guess what? If you have coverage through work or privately for disability, you should apply for it, but you got to go to your doctor or contact your doctor, whether it's by phone, by Skype, by Zoom, whatever it is. If your doctor confirms that you are disabled from working and your doctor explains the nature of the disability, remember, it doesn't have to be just a physical one, it can be a psychological disability, the ones that I've mentioned, well, then you can apply for short-term and or long-term disability. And if your doctor confirms that you are disabled, the insurance company should approve you. And if they don't approve you, that's when we get involved. And I've spoken to countless individuals who are in this situation now, John, again, across Ontario and across British Columbia. And I'm telling you, I'm expecting to see a lot more of this happening, unfortunately, but that's just a reality. So, understand that if you do have that coverage and you do find that the effects of COVID are debilitating for you, go to your doctor, contact your doctor's office, or if you have a treatment provider like a psychologist that you've been going to, get them to provide some support in writing that you're unable to work and explain why as a result of the disability and apply. You should get it. And remember, shortened disability generally covers 80 to 100% of your pre-disability income. LTD, long-term disability, generally covers 60 to 70% of your pre-disability income. So that's a lot more money, typically, than what you would be able to get through EI, for example.
3 things you should do if you're unable to work because of COVID-19. Number 2 is this, Sivan. If you need treatments for your disability, get a referral from your doctor or your specialist at a clinic that can provide treatments remotely. That's key, right?
Absolutely, John. You know, before we started the show, you were telling me there's another individual you work with. You do a show here, I think Dr. Payne, right? And you know, he's working remotely to an extent. And, you know, I know physiotherapists and I know psychologists and other treatment providers who have adapted and are working remotely. Look, you want to continue getting treatments because it's better, right, for you from a health standpoint. Forget about the legalities. You want to be able to get better. So you do want a recommendation, if you don't have someone you're going to, a recommendation from your doctor preferably, of what clinics are still in operation, what clinics are still able to provide certain services via phone or via Zoom or Skype or FaceTime, whatever it is. And the reason is because you have an obligation under a long-term disability policy, if you're applying for it or if you're on it, to continue receiving treatments. Now, if you're in an area where there's just absolutely no way you can get that, there are no treatment providers you can get in touch with, and you've exhausted all options, well, then at that point, you've exhausted all options, nothing you can do about that. But again, with the remote capabilities we have nowadays, you should be able to get to a clinic or a treatment provider that can provide these treatments online or by phone, and that's going to strengthen your case in order to get short-term and long-term disability coverage.
Okay, 3rd thing you need to do if you're unable to work because of COVID-19 and your short-term or long-term disability application is not happening, it's been denied. No good. Call you immediately, right?
Yes, call me immediately. And I know, people out there are thinking, you're a lawyer, this is what you do for a living, that you're using this opportunity. Well, guess what? Don't call me. Call another disability lawyer. I don't care. My point is this, and I tell this to people all the time, whether it's on radio interviews or newspapers interviewing me or the TV show. If you are going head-to-head with an insurance company and you have no expertise in this area, you will most likely lose. These are professionals. But if you go with someone who represents you, a disability lawyer, someone who understands this field, and in my group, by the way, not just me, there's other lawyers on my team who have worked for insurance companies in the past. In fact, one of them just recently joined us, and she was a very, very senior lawyer at one of the biggest long-term disability insurance companies in the country. So that gives us an edge because we understand what their weaknesses are. You know, to use a phrase I've heard recently, we've been in the belly of the beast. Okay, we understand the way insurance companies operate. Don't take them on your own. Don't appeal those denials. Again, if you appeal those denials, you will find in almost every circumstance that I've seen that those appeals get denied or they go nowhere, or you wait and you wait and you wait with no answer in sight. So if you call us, there's no obligation. You don't have to do anything. You're calling us for information. We can assess your situation at no charge and tell you what your options are. At that point, you can decide, after having been informed of your options, how you want to proceed. Again, we don't push anyone to do anything. We just want to give out this information, which is why, John, you had mentioned that website, covidrights.ca, that our team has created, and it's got very accurate and accurate information in real time, both about employment issues and disability issues during this pandemic. It's very, very relevant to almost everyone that is watching this show today.
Okay, we'll take a break. Coming up here, what to do if your insurer tells you to apply for CPP. We'll get to that and dissect that one after a short break. 1-855-821-5900, disabilityrights.ca, and of course, covidrights.ca as well. Right back, more Disability Law Show. Stick around.
You were being harassed, and when you said something about it, you're the one who lost your job. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Insurance companies deny long-term disability claims all the time. They give lots of excuses. Don't give up. I've seen it all. They've ignored your doctors, they've ignored you. You're angry and you're frustrated. But there's hope. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You thought you had a secure job. You didn't see it coming. Now what do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Hey, welcome back. Disability Law Show. You want to reach out anytime, 1-855-821-5900. You can go to disabilityrights.ca and covidrights.ca. As Sivan mentioned just before we took the break, lots of information both on the disability side and the employment side, so anytime you want to check that out. But going back to disabilityrights.ca, that is the website to go to catch a radio show that we've been doing for years and years. We got lots of great phone calls. Appreciate them all. I know some of you that watch this show also call the radio show, and we like to play them back, dissect them, and talk about them. So we'll get to another call right now.
Great insight in regards to LTD. I've been on it for almost 2 years now with a lung condition. The insurance company is now asking me to apply for CPP LTD because I'm reaching that 2-year mark. I don't know what that entails and what that means. I'm not fully recovered yet, so I'm not quite ready to go back. But they've asked me now to apply. Does that mean that they now have me apply to the government to continue my benefits?
CPP. There you go.
CPP disability. So let's talk about this really quickly because, again, I get a lot of questions about that. Insurance companies, disability insurance companies, are interested in claimants applying for and getting CPP disability for a very simple reason. If you apply for it and you get it, they get a credit for that. So to use a very simple example, John, if you get $3,000 a month in long-term disability payments and you've just been approved for CPP disability, for $1,000 a month, well, guess what? You're not getting $1,000 plus $3,000. You're not getting $4,000. You're still getting $3,000, but the insurance company now can pay you $1,000 less because you're getting that from CPP disability. Now, why is it still advantageous for you to apply for it and get it? Well, if the policy that you have, and most policies now have this provision, obligates you to apply for CPP disability and you don't, the insurance company can then try to guesstimate or estimate how much you should be getting from CPP disability and then reduce your monthly LTD benefits accordingly. So it's to your advantage to apply for it because if you don't, they're going to knock down whatever they think you should be getting from CPP. But guess what? During this COVID pandemic, if you applied for CPP disability and you got accepted and now you're getting money from CPP disability, that's now another source of income. Right? You're getting now payments from a third source, from the government. So if at some point in the near future you may be cut off of LTD payments, you still have CPP disability coming in. Now, another reason to apply for CPP disability is because if you get approved for it, it makes it that much more difficult for the LTD insurer to say you should no longer be getting LTD. Well, because the government has now said that you are disabled because they're paying you CPP disability. So you see, that's the reason why they're asking you to apply for it, and those are the reasons why you should apply for CPP disability. Now, I want to touch on something else, John, that this caller has talked about that 2-year mark. At the beginning of the show, we had another caller who also talked about the fact that she was reassessed and the insurance company thought that she could do something else. This 2-year mark, this change of definition date for long-term disability, that is something that I see literally every day, people contacting me because the insurance company is contacting them, telling them your 2 years is almost up. We're going to pay you up until that 2-year mark or close to it, and then we're going to stop payments because we think you can do something else. Hold on, not that simple. Insurance companies can't simply unilaterally do that. Even if they sent you to their own doctors and their own doctors said that they think that you should be able to go back to work, if your doctors disagree, if you know that that's not true, you know that you are still disabled from doing any occupation for which you're suited, and whoever's treating you agrees with that, the insurance company should not be cutting you off, and you should be contacting us so we can tell you what you need to do to either change the insurance company's mind, sometimes we can do that with certain maneuvers, or start a legal claim against the insurance company as a preemptive strike to hit back, to force them to the table to pay you what you are owed. Either way, if you are still disabled and they're going to cut you off, you should be contacting us so we can give you the information you need to protect yourself and your family.
You always say don't hesitate to reach out regardless. 1-855-821-5900. help@disabilityrights.ca is the email address. In that regard, going to bounce down to Sanders' email. Sanders says, Sivan, my best friend has severe bouts of asthma and he is terrified of the coronavirus. He works in construction and they have several projects on the go right now. He's been almost paralyzed with fear and anxiety, and his doctor just referred him to see a psychologist. I'm wondering if he can apply for disability if the psychologist says that he can't work.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And this is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, John. And I'm trying to inform as many people as I can that they have that option. That hidden safety net of disability. Remember, you're not claiming for something that the insurance company was never paid for. They were paid for through premiums. Either you paid those premiums all these years or your employer paid for those premiums for this eventuality, not for the pandemic, but for a situation that may arise in the future, which has now happened with this person, Sandra, with your friend, where he's simply unable to work because of all this anxiety and the psychological toll that this pandemic has taken. If you have access to short-term or long-term disability through work or privately, and you are disabled from working because of the psychological impact here, get a doctor, get a psychologist, get somebody that can treat you to explain in writing, on a report, in a letter, why it is that you are disabled from working because of those conditions. And you should be applying for short-term or long-term disability, whatever you have. And if you get denied, we can fight it. Period. We can fight it, okay? Don't simply assume that because the insurance company is this billion-dollar entity, they can do whatever they want. They can't do whatever they want. This pandemic does not erase your legal rights. This pandemic does not mean that insurance companies have carte blanche and doing whatever they want. No. If anything, we are now getting, our experience now with insurance companies that they're actually being quite reasonable to deal with when we get involved. So again, if you know that you are legitimately disabled, by all means, if the insurance company cuts you off or denies your claim, come to us, let us advise you. And Sandra, thank you very much for contacting us on behalf of your friend. And John, I will say this, I will put the message out to everyone that's watching. This may not be applicable to you, but you may have a friend, a family member, a colleague, a coworker, someone who is unable to work because of a disability, not because there's lack of work, because there is a disability at play here, psychological or physical or both, that is preventing them from working. If their doctors say that they cannot work because of that disability, they should be getting that disability, and we can help them. We can help them if the insurance company denies them.
Savannah, I think we have enough time to slide one more in here. We'll get to Norm's email. Norm says, Savannah, I'm a clinical psychologist and have been in practice for over 20 years. I'm already seeing a significant increase of individuals being referred to me because of the psychological toll of the COVID virus has had on individuals. My concern is that disability insurers will refuse to help and pay people who are waiting in queue for an appointment to see me and my colleagues. Do you have any advice in this regard, as well as with respect to any information insurers may be asking from me and my colleagues regarding our own patients?
Well, first of all, Norm, thank you for reaching out to us. And John, I speak with people like Norm, psychologists, chronic pain specialists, different kinds of doctors on a weekly basis now because they have these kinds of questions. First of all, thank you for continuing to treat individuals remotely if you can do that. Just continue doing the best that you can, and we greatly appreciate both us in the legal community and individuals out there who are now going to need your services more than ever with the psychological impact of this COVID virus. In terms of what insurance companies are going to want from you, they're going to want from you what they've always wanted, which is confirmation and an explanation of why your patient is unable to work. And it's not sufficient to simply provide a one-liner saying this person has PTSD, they cannot work. That's not enough. You have to provide more information about the prognosis, the treatments, whether the person is being compliant with treatments, the functional impairments, how is this preventing the individual from carrying out their work duties, whatever you can to put meat on the bones for the insurance companies. And again, if you are a treatment practitioner and one of your patients is denied LTD unjustly, please direct them to us. Get consent, of course, but direct them to us or call us, obviously, if you have general questions. We'll do our best to answer. And again, John, I oftentimes write articles and provide a lot of information for treatment practitioners like Norm. They are so crucial during this time. And again, a huge thank you to them from the entire legal community, not just myself.
Busy show, man. We're going to leave it for there. Lots of information for you to digest on. If you want to reach out anytime, don't hesitate to do so. Keep the number handy, 1-855-821-5900. Send along an email as help@disabilityrights.ca. If you shorten that just to disabilityrights.ca, that's where you can find radio shows. And as mentioned, a very robust website of recent crafting, and it's still around there, COVIDrights.ca. COVIDrights.ca. Make sure you go there for more information. And failing all else, contact Sivan and his crew. They will take care of you. Thank you. We'll catch you next time on the Disability Law Show. Stay safe.